This video is sponsored by Keeps. More on them later.
This is my copy of Super Mario Galaxy. It's a pretty good game, did quite well for Nintendo, made them lots of money, got some pretty good review scores, lots of people played it, and that's because generally speaking, Nintendo are really good at making video games. There's a little icon at the back, not sure if you can see that. The original Nintendo seal of quality, something adopted around about the NES era after the 1983 game crash to instill some confidence in people that video games can be good and that they're up to the usual Nintendo standards. Try to remember that apparently Nintendo have standards over the next 15 minutes or so.
When you've been making video games as long and as consistently well as Nintendo have over the past 40 years or so, you're bound to slip up sometimes. That's the thing though, when Nintendo have gained popularity as both a console manufacturer and as a games developer, there's this weird crossover point where Nintendo get criticised for having terrible games on their system that they didn't directly help to create, like all the shovelware that infected the Wii over its lifetime. Likewise, the same criticism of something like the CDI Zeldas that, yes, besmirch the name of one of their flagship franchises, but other than that, don't have anything to do with Nintendo. So basically what I'm trying to say is that this is a video all about the worst games that have Nintendo down as a developer on Wikipedia. I want them to be personally responsible for bringing something terrible into the world because clearly they've achieved too much in the past and we all need to be reminded of their blind spots. However, if the problem you're facing is more of a bald spot than a blind one, a fate that is likely to affect 2 out of 3 men before they turn 35, then aren't you lucky that you clicked on this video since we're sponsored by Keeps today with their FDA-approved treatment for hair loss. These guys are experts at returning hair to thinning scalps with a ton of successful cases under their belts, and they're knowledgeable enough to know that hair loss is different from one guy to the next, which is why their treatment comes in 3 different variants based on what kind of hair loss you're experiencing. Plus, you can get everything shipped directly to your door so you don't have to wait for the world to sort itself out before you can fix your hair. Keeps' treatment packages are already cheaper than their competitors, but with the deal they're running with me, you can save even more money. For a limited time off, you can go to keeps.com/rabbid or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. Stop hair loss now before it's too late.
Okay then, let me walk you through Nintendo's Hall of Shame. Given how long Nintendo have been making games for, it's no surprise at all that there are entries into established franchises that people do not like playing, and this is, gonna happen with every single IP that Nintendo has. There's gonna be something in there where the game is changed, the idea behind it is changed, and people don't like it, and if the game is generally bad because of the changes, then I will be concluding it in this video. Or I don't have to, because there's more than enough here for me to talk about without having to worry about that. Or I can just choose Stick a Star and call it a day. It's about the only thing it's good at.
Gather round, children, so I can tell you a tale. A story that I'm sure is real, but took place so long ago that I often find myself wondering if it really did happen exactly as I remember it. Alright, so basically there was this guy called Nino Tendino who was so good at making JRPGs starring Mario from the hit video game Wrecking Boy that he decided that he was bored of being good at it. After his magnum opus, The 100-Year Window, Nino decided to change things up for the sequel, which was more of a platformer and not quite as good. But the charming writing was still there even if the core gameplay wasn't, so it was still reasonably encouraging for the future. Sadly, the future disagreed, and since we live in the darkest timeline, we now have Paper Mario Sticker Star in our lives. Like a moldy mushroom in your shower. If Super Paper Mario was a worrying sign of things to come later down the line, then Sticker Star was a hefty freight train bearing down on all of your hopes and dreams with reckless abandon. I don't really know what possessed Nintendo to make so many sweeping changes to Mario RPGs, but the ironic thing is how Sticker Star returns to being more of an RPG than Super Paper Mario, but does so while making so many conventions significantly worse. The whole sticker thing could have been interesting if implemented properly, but ultimately boils down to a handful of environmental interactions and a disappointing battle system that actively discourages using your finite source of stickers. Previous series strengths like an engrossing world and a fun villain have fallen by the wayside, and so you're left there with a new Mario RPG and no real incentive to play it. I mean, it's got that typical Mario charm that tends to make everything at least like 20% better, but it's a strangely underdeveloped title lacking in polish and a significant enough expansion of ideas to justify such radical changes. It's like, what if Google stopped being good at search engines and decided to open a crappy burger joint instead where everything tastes like cardboard? Why wouldn't you throw everything behind this concept to make sure it feels less like a gimmick? Why would you abandon everything that worked so well before? I get the sense you peaked too soon, guys. Nintendo are slightly obsessed with reinventing the wheel when it comes to new technology for their games consoles. The rivals prefer to keep things relatively simple and prioritize graphical output and performance, but meanwhile, in a far-flung corner of the world called Japan, Nintendo are too busy doing weird things with their hardware. Clearly it works. You gotta know that the Switch and the Wii wouldn't have been massive successes if Nintendo hadn't have taken this risk, but when they lean too much on their fancy tech, sometimes it can't quite support the weight of more ambitious projects. Definitely the Wii was conceptually miles ahead of the hardware, with Nintendo trying to take giant leaps forward by introducing the world to gesture-based gameplay. Waving your hands around like a lunatic to mimic stuff like tennis or sword strikes or music? Yeah, maybe the conducting side of things, but actually making music with the Wii Remote? Not sure that would go down well.
By the time Wii Music came out in 2008, it seemed to be another game in the prestigious Wii series, including Wii Sports, Wii Fit, and hey, even Wii Play came with a free controller. Also, I was 13 at the time, and I really loved music, and I enjoyed the idea of making some in a video game beyond, like, Guitar Hero. Should mention, when I was 13, I wasn't exactly watching E3 every year. Oh, I wish I did though.
You ask anyone what is the low point of E3's 26-year history, and if they don't say Konami from 2010, or any of the shit from a couple of months ago, I'd be surprised if they don't point to Nintendo ruining everyone's day in 2008 with just the worst thing ever, I think. They've had technical difficulties before when showing games, which is at least part of the reason why we've got pre-recorded directs these days, but the way in which Nintendo butchered Wii Music kinda set the tone. I want to say that Wii Music is a harmless waste of time with at least a passing capacity to teach people about music and different musical instruments, but what I keep coming back to is a complete absence of the kind of polish that you'd expect from these sort of Nintendo games. For a game that almost functions like a proof of concept or a tech demo, you'd think there'll be better controls and a more exciting gameplay loop beyond playing every song once, badly, and then just screwing around with the minigames. It's a fun novelty, but it's as shallow as a puddle, and for a game that was close to full price at launch, that's just not acceptable, I'm sorry. Wii Sports was the perfect tech demo bundle. Wii Fit actually did some decent work with like yoga and stuff, and Smash Bros, I guess. But Wii Music was so far off the mark of leaving some kind of positive impact on society. Not the first time Nintendo tried to teach kids about something useful, and definitely not the last. The Labo piano plays better than anything Wii Music can do. You know what I've noticed? Nintendo tend to shit the bed when they try too hard to do something exciting with their new hardware. Some of their best games in recent memory have sought out to just be entertaining rather than a deliberate showcase of hardware that needs selling. It's not as though Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey were specifically developed to get the most out of the Switch. They're just really good games. Worry about the game first and implement the new tech as more of a sprinkled garnish over the top, and whatever you do, don't bring back a franchise after a lengthy absence as a soft reboot, but change the controls to be incredibly convoluted and stupid. I'm sure people were excited for Star Fox Zero once upon a time, but that feels like oh so long ago at this point. Would we be as excited if Nintendo hinted at another new Star Fox game tomorrow? Maybe exercise a little bit of caution. Nintendo in the first half of 2016 was pretty desperate, and before we knew about the Switch, the most we had to look forward to was Star Fox Zero, that aimed to bring back the glory days of a cornerstone IP that was practically dead and buried after Star Fox Command closed the door about a decade prior. There was a lot to like about it from early trailers, and the news that PlatinumGames were along for the ride was very encouraging given their track record, but at some point in development, Nintendo decided to turn a simple reboot of Star Fox into a more episodic retreading of Star Fox 64's story, with a few fancy embellishments, and then they dove off the deep end. I'm not exaggerating in the slightest when I say that I don't remember how Star Fox Zero controls without looking it up, but I remember it being super duper fucky. You move the R-Wing around with the control stick, which makes sense, but aiming your guns is done with motion controls, with the Wii U gamepad giving you an extra view at what it is you're shooting at. It's so awkward to get to grips with, and over-engineered to the point of being the only thing that you think about while playing the game. I played Zero all the way through, including alternate paths and bonus missions, and I never got used to this. And it's honestly one of the worst controlling games I've ever played. I never buy that you should have to get used to a control scheme. The fundamentals of playing a game should feel natural and fun to use, otherwise your game is going to be a hell of a slog. I don't know, what do you guys think? Does Star Fox Zero have terrible controls, or am I just bad at doing two things at once? Let me know down below in a comment or something. Regardless, what is it with bad Nintendo games having terrible controls? I think I found their Achilles heel. Prior to Super Mario Party, you could make a convincing argument that Nintendo didn't know what to do with Mario Party. The glory days of Hudson Soft knowing what they were doing were replaced by ND Cube stumbling from one gimmick to the next and putting everyone in a car for a drive-by of a good game. And by the time we got to Mario Party 10, the whole idea of Mario characters limping around the board for coins and stars felt worn out and redundant. So mad props to Nintendo and ND Cube for turning things around in Super Mario Party, because honestly, any of those later Mario Party games could have been in this video and it wouldn't have even been much of a stretch. However, ND Cube were at the helm of another party game that was also infected by the malaise that plagued Mario Party for so long, but with an added dose of awful timing and a letdown of expectations, because like Star Fox, Animal Crossing was suffering from a hiatus in 2015, and what did we get to tie us over? An extremely low-effort Mario Party clone. Oh yeah, that's what I was missing in my life.
Hey, do you know which game killed Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival before it even existed? Smash Bros. 4, surprisingly enough, because the Amiibo functionality in that game was so popular and so lucrative for Nintendo that naturally they tried to capitalize on that and sought to create a brand new Amiibo style adventure with, new Amiibos that people could buy, and so Amiibo Festival came to be, and that's fine on its own, but you need to remember to build a game beyond that. But they kinda forgot. I didn't forget the game they made though.
Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is so boring and lifeless that it makes me feel a little bit ill. I got a stuffed nose, not because of some seasonal allergies, but because I knew I had to talk about this game and I really don't want to. I've said before that the years immediately preceding the Switch were fucking desperate for Nintendo fans, and I don't think any game highlights this as well as Amiibo Festival that looks charming and captures the aesthetic essence of an Animal Crossing game, but nothing else. I said it's a Mario Party clone at a time when no one knew how to make those, but it isn't even that, since Amiibo Festival has a heavier focus on the board game part of this formula than the mini-games. You take the mini-games away from Mario Party and it's just a frustrating game of random number generation and getting screwed out of victory by dumb luck. Minigames give Mario Party so much character as well as a chance to do something skill-based, and so de-emphasizing them in favor of plodding around a board leaves Amiibo Festival playing as ugly as it isn't. Everyone wanted an Animal Crossing game on the Wii U in 2015, but you'd have to go very far to find someone who wanted this Animal Crossing game on the Wii U. There's not knowing your audience, and then there's peddling Amiibos ahead of giving the people what they want. How the fuck did we recover from this? For the most part, Nintendo have done well to steer clear of some of the worst trends of modern gaming. I think that speaks to their general design philosophy of prioritizing fun and entertainment over the balls-to-the-wall pursuit of profit that has generally worked out pretty well for them so far. Unfortunately, Nintendo's head was turned by the lucrative appeal of mobile games, and inevitably, it didn't take them long to go looking into that market for some easy money. To be fair, Nintendo were initially fairly restrained with their adoption of mobile game trends, and games like Super Mario Run and Animal Crossing Pocket Camp are relatively harmless. The same can't be said of Mario Kart Tour, which was a game that Nintendo were hinting to for years and seemed promising as a more casual pick-up-and-play version of the Mario Kart that's been so valuable to Nintendo for the last 10 years, and yet no! Because this was the point when Nintendo decided to fill it full of microtransactions and loot boxes. Just what ground do you think you walk, sir? Oh yeah, no, it's perfect because it looks like Mario Kart and it's even called that on the app stores, but Mario Kart Tour is little more than a distant cousin who you only see at weddings and funerals, and even then, you try your best not to talk to them because fuck me! This game is like the perfect amalgamation of some of the worst traits that we've already covered in this video, with the added bonus of gacha elements and a monthly pass. I get why Tour is the way it is, because this is just how companies generate money on mobile games, and to pretend otherwise would be stupid, and of course Nintendo having more money may well be a good thing for their future video games on standard consoles, but it really boils my piss when I see Mario Kart treated like some lactating cash cow that Nintendo can pump for easy money. Not only that, but again we've got tricky controls that take a while to understand and a gameplay loop that had me bored to tears in about 5 minutes, so even without the incessant lust for your wallet, Mario Kart Tour is a fragile shell of a traditional Mario Kart game, wrapped around a manipulative system that glorifies gambling to drain your money away. It's not a glitchy mess, but it does make me feel unclean inside just thinking about it. And Nintendo games shouldn't do that.
I mentioned the Nintendo seal of quality at the start, and since Mario Kart World Tour is a downloadable game only with no box art, I can't find the seal of quality anywhere. Which is just as well, because I hate to think that this is good enough. This is RabbidLuigi, and if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. And if you want to watch more right now, there's one just there about the funniest glitches in video games. And I also want to thank my top supporters on Patreon, including Scott Riker, Devon Hutt, and Ramon Alberto. Thank you for watching, and demand more from your Mario Kart.